Welcome to Talking New York Real Estate with Vince Rocco. Our show is all about the exciting world of real estate and in particular, how it relates to the luxury New York marketplace. But if you are not planning a real estate transaction in New York, we still have plenty of information you can use no matter where you are. Now, here's our show. Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome my listeners and viewers in the United States and all around the world. I am Vince Rocco, and it is Tuesday here in New York City, and a very hot one. So let's go behind the headlines and get the real story. Today, we are talking about staging and design to win. But first, this is Talking New York Real Estate. And up front today, an interior designer, a real estate developer, and a furniture retailer walk into a business relationship together. The result? Furniture for millennials and anybody else, sold via a newly debuting brand called the Everset, founded by Gavin Steinberg, the real estate developer and investor behind all of it. The Everset is a subscription furniture service designed for New York sellers or renters, working in tandem with landlords and developers across the city. They design winning and captivating solutions for clients and anyone who has interest in the best solutions out there. Also today, Calder Design Group's passion for pushing the envelope while always listening to their clients' needs are what truly make their approach unique. Melanie Calder Russo's design journey began as a little girl living in Manhattan as the daughter of Nicholas Calder, a world-renowned New York-based interior designer. They work closely together with their clients to understand their lifestyle and living environment. Their mission is to create not only an elegant, well-designed and chic space, but also a livable, timeless home for clients to enjoy for years to come. Melanie was recently featured on an Open House NYC episode showcasing a 6,000 square foot duplex she designed on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. We're going to discuss that and so much more as Talking New York Real Estate gets underway on this Tuesday morning. And in the news this morning, straight from our chief economist's desk, the Fed's favorite measure of inflation rose 2.6% over the past year. Stocks were mostly down for the week, but the Dow had a 650-point gain on Friday. The economy grew much faster than expected in the second quarter. The Fed will cut rates twice this year, supposedly, according to a survey of economists conducted by Reuters. Business activity grew at its fastest pace in 27 months during July, according to the latest S&P Global Flash U.S. Composite PMI. Thanks, Greg. Existing home sales fell 5.4% in June. New home sales dropped to a 7-month low. Mortgage demand is declining as buyers are waiting for lower rates, and the average 30-year mortgage rate ticked up this week to 6.78%. Harlem's first ever Trader Joe's opened last week. The store is located at 123 West 125th Street, part of a mixed-use development with office space, retail, affordable housing, the headquarters of the National Urban League, and a new museum dedicated to the civil rights movement. The second priciest single-family home ever sold in Brooklyn has officially closed. The Anglo-Italianate 5-bedroom townhouse at Warden Sidney Place in Brooklyn Heights sold for $22.1 million. Glossier founder Emily Weiss was identified as the buyer. About a half a mile away, though, the borough's most expensive single-family sale remains at 8 Montague Terrace, which sold in 2020 for $25.5 million. And President Joe Biden last week unveiled a proposal to cap rents at 5% annually by apartments owned by corporate landlords. The plan would apply to landlords who own 50 units in their portfolio, covering about 20 million units nationwide, roughly half of all rentals. The legislation requires approval, including the Republican-controlled House, to move forward. And a series of colorful lanterns are now sparkling above Broadway as part of a new public art installation in Midtown. The Garment District Alliance last week unveiled New Start, New Hope, an exhibition featuring 135 colorful lanterns illuminating 3 plazas between 36th and 39th Streets. Created by the local artist Zen Song, the installation adds brightness and a sense of calm to one of the city's busiest areas. And finally, reservations are now open for the summer 2024 New York City Restaurant Week. Restaurant Week hit the 5 boroughs on July 22nd and runs through August 18th, with some restaurants extending the menu through the beginning of September. Participating establishments will offer 2-course lunches and 3-course dinners, starting at $30, $45, or $60. And with me today, I'm Matthew Leone, Chief Marketing Officer from Brown Harris Stevens, Gavin Steinberg, co-founder and CEO of the Everset, Anna Khan from Brown Harris Stevens, and Melanie Calder Russo from the Calder Design Group. Okay, so we're here today and we're going to talk about design and staging to win. here in the real estate industry, us agents and brokers, we depend on these guys heavily to help us sell our apartments. Years ago, and Melanie and I were talking about this before we started the show. Staging didn't exist. Design really didn't exist. I mean, it was kind of like an empty room. You had to kind of make do with it. People would come in and say, where does the sofa go? And where's the TV going? Just not have a clue. Most people do not have vision. So we're going to clarify that today. Gavin, I'd like to start with you. The Everset slogan says, own your life, not your furniture. What do you mean by that? Before we get into your business,
Sure.
tell me what you mean by that slogan. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, so own your life, not your furniture. It really speaks to the freedom and flexibility that furniture rental can provide. No longer are you tied down with this actual literally heavy item in your home. You can return it, you can buy it, you can swap it. You don't have to live with it at all times, and it provides a lot of freedom and flexibility.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that a little bit. Tell us about the business, though. You provide a full service, staging and furniture rental solution for real estate agents or sellers or renters or landlords, whoever is in need of filling up a room.
Yep.
Tell us how the business works and what you provide by way of offerings.
Sure. So the Everset really started as a direct-to-consumer furniture rental business, which we still offer today. And what that means is you can come to our website, residents can come to our website, they can rent furniture anywhere from 3 to 24 months. We'll deliver, assemble, and pick up the furniture for free. At the end of their subscription with us, they can renew and keep renting. They can swap the furniture in or out as their life changes. They can buy the furniture, or they can extend and keep renting. What we did when we launched, which was a little bit unique, was that we would partner with property owners and developers so that they could offer furniture rental as a service or an amenity to their residents. And it was really through those conversations and those partnerships that our staging business developed and grew, because we were talking to our partners and we kept hearing the same story, which is on the staging side, there was really expensive staging solutions. Furniture looks really nice, design is great, but not every project could justify that price tag. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you had less expensive staging companies, but the furniture and design wasn't there and the customer service wasn't great. Or maybe the worst case scenarios often we heard was, they do it themselves and they end up with a warehouse full of furniture that they don't know what to do with. And there was very little in the middle. And we filled that hole really well. And so that's what we're really good at. We're affordable without sacrificing style or design.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. You're very affordable, compared to others, but you don't sacrifice anything else. Design,
that's the goal.
Style. But how do you really do that? Because nothing in this business is cheap, right?
So my partner and co-founder, Jonathan Matrani, came from the furniture industry, 20 years of furniture experience. We're really good at sourcing affordable furniture that still looks really good. And then we have a great design team who's led by Elspeth Lockery, who does a great job kind of putting it all together. And I think it's doable. It's just that the other companies out there were really focusing on either the higher end or the lower end, and they weren't taking advantage of the middle.
What do you do with furniture that comes back after, however long it's been rented and it's kind of like not in great shape, it's a little damaged? How do you recycle that, or do you?
Yeah, so when furniture comes back and it's done with its useful life, we have a partnership with Habitat for Humanity. So we can donate our furniture to them and they will sell it in their restores. Those proceeds go to building affordable housing. And so it really kind of brings it full cycle. It keeps the furniture out of landfills. It helps build affordable housing.
That's incredible.
And it's a great partnership that we're really pleased to be a part of.
Melanie, on the other hand, you're an interior designer, and you're very into design, very into, making homes, rooms look spectacular after a sale or after somebody rents. Tell us a little bit about your business, where you got started, how you got started. We talked a little bit about that in the intro, but give us a little background as to how your business actually got started.
Sure. So my father, Nicholas Calder, started the business in 1971. So he started from nothing and grew this wonderful, brilliant business. He has an amazing eye for design. And as a little girl, I used to go with him on installations and meet clients with him, and it was very, very cool. But I'm an only child, and I didn't want the legacy to end when my dad decided to retire. And when I was about 23, I said, "Hey, Daddy, let me join." And he was a little skeptical. He was scared, but it was like magic. We worked together really well.
You know, it's like you and I talked about before the show. You know, a lot of people, and this is my opinion, okay, so no offense meant out there, but a lot of people have no vision. And a lot of people don't have any taste. And a lot of people can't put vision and taste or anything together, right? How did you acquire yours? Because I can say I'm going to be an interior designer and fail miserably because I don't have that, you know, touch. How do you do that? Where did it come from? Yeah, you watched your dad, and yeah, he was very, very successful and renowned, but you have to have something in you. What was that?
Well, part of it, I think a little bit's in your blood. I think you have it. But I always had a knack for fashion. I went to NYU, studied journalism, and wanted to pursue fashion journalism. But I graduated right after 9/11, and the job market was super scarce, and I wasn't finding the niche I wanted to be in. So I started thinking about, okay, if it's not fashion, what other creative industry? And I think fashion and design go really hand in hand, interiors. And so I said, let me see how this works. And I wanted to go to design school. And my dad just said, the only way you're going to learn is to do it. And he handed me a set of plans and a scale rule. And that was that.
Matt, let me ask you, okay, you know, in our business, in the real estate industry, you know, staging, design, it's considered crucial to be competitive in our marketplace. You talk to a lot of agents. I talk to a lot of agents. What from your perspective is the most important aspect of staging or design and you know, the success that can come from it?
Well, I think the most important aspect is understanding your budgetary restrictions and what your likely return will be from putting in that investment. And what we found, and we've been tracking this for about 5-6 years, is that you're probably getting a little bit above a 3% return on your investment. Like it before and after staging, it's probably increasing the value of whatever you put on and sell by 3%. So if you have, let's say, a $2 million home, you should probably consider your budget at like $60,000 and under for staging to get a proper return. You don't want to overstage and not get that return because then it becomes, you know, an expense. And so number one is budget, I think is very important. I think the number two thing is that before we talk staging, I think everyone needs to talk decluttering. So like, I think decluttering is number one, is that for someone to walk into something that feels messy and doesn't feel welcoming is you have a strike against you the second someone walks through the door. So let's declutter, let's remove as much from it as possible, and then let's do minimal staging. And I think the advantage, we have a great brand partnership with the Everset, and the reason why we enjoyed working with them so much is because their staging is you're going to get more for less, and you're also going to get more likely a minimalist design. And I appreciate that because I don't want something to be sort of overshadowing the home, something that is just bold and in your face. I don't know if that's the job of staging. I think the job of staging is to give them a vision of what that room could be, and then you make it your own style. So don't overshadow the home itself. Don't become too bold. Where it's very niche to what audience might like and enjoy that.
Right.
So I think those are, you know, sort of the steps that I would follow. And again, if you stage, you're going to get probably, you're going to close 70% faster. And we found that as well, is that you close a lot quicker. And for all those co-ops out there that are sitting because they are out of date and they're stale and they're not moving and they haven't been updated in 30 years. Like, that's why you're sitting. It's probably partially the price, but it's more to do with today's buyer, Gen Z and millennials. They're not interested in that. They need to be spoken to. They need to see something that they could see themselves in before they walk in the door. And I think that's very important as well, Vince.
Well said. I mean, Melanie and I were talking about that before the show, and decluttering is a major concern because we've all walked in as agents and said, look, you can't, and I told you the story earlier, I can't sell this like this. Way too much furniture. Cluttered is the right word. You had to walk sideways to get around sofa and chair and table and whatever. Gavin, so, when people come to you and ask you to stage, okay, Matt's point about decluttering is so right on. Do you deal with that at all? And do you sometimes say, get rid of all of it and start again? Because I have done that.
Yeah. Typically we're starting from zero. And we do get clients who come and say, hey, I have some furniture. I'd like to keep this. Can we work around it? And we usually recommend that they take everything out and let us start from zero, because when you're trying to mix and match something that they love because they've had it for 20 years, it just doesn't work as well. And so, staging, you're going to see a great return. But I think there's other things like cluttering or that first impression of, are the windows clean? What's the temperature in the apartment? Is it too hot? Is there a weird smell? Like, there's so many things you can do that are free. And then obviously, we think staging is the biggest return and makes the most impact.
I'm fighting with a seller as we speak. Every time I go and show the apartment, he goes to work all day long and he turns the air conditioning off. And I'm like, you can't do that. Okay, I walk in at 2:00 in the afternoon and it's 95 degrees outside. Oh, yeah. And the first impression is, does this place have air conditioning?
Yeah. Right.
Or there's something wrong. There's something up.
There's always something wrong.
Yeah.
Always something wrong, always something up. Melanie, you do a lot of new developments, and we talked about this earlier as well. So, and I do also, and I remember back in, I'm going to date myself, 2006, 2007, when I talked to my first developer about the need for staging. In your opinion, how does staging new developments help the developer sell better and add value to that apartment
100%.
or all of those apartments?
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. You see a total difference in how quickly something sells. And like we were all saying, the first impression is everything. When a buyer can come in and see something and envision themselves living there, it might not necessarily be their style sofa,
right,
but that makes a huge difference. And I definitely have seen an impact in the sale price. I find because, a wanted property, there will be a bidding war. People will want to fight for that. And I see a huge difference in speed of sale and price.
And so from a design perspective, Matt mentioned the word bold or don't overdo. And we've all walked into apartments where, the colors are all wrong, or, purple cabinets in the kitchen and, really customized, cabinetry or whatever. Oftentimes it's a turnoff, right? So how do you get people to understand you're not going to live in this apartment for the rest of your life, okay? Everybody, I'm buying an apartment, I'm going to, die here, whatever. Well, you ain't going to die here, okay? You're going to sell it in 3 or 5 years, period. How do you get them? Because I've had conversations with sellers. You can't do that. I mean, I know you like the color red, but you can't have a red room. First of all, it makes it too small and feel cluttered. What kind of conversations ensue in your world when sellers or now new property owners say, I want to do this and I want to do that, and you clearly don't agree with that for all the right reasons?
Well, when it comes to a seller, for the staging purposes, it's always better to go with more of a universal design, something that will not offend anyone with color or pattern too bold. You want it to have great style, which you can do with textures and adding in some color, but it's better not to have somebody walk in and it be super jarring.
I mean, I walked into a house. My sister was looking for a house, I don't know, a year or two ago up in Westchester, and the cabinets in the kitchen were red. The walls were green. And I looked at the agent and I said, is it Christmas? And you know what she said? Oh, they happen to like the colors of Christmas. How are you going to sell a house?
Well, on the interior design end of that, there are times where somebody buys a property and I'm hired to design it, if they are bold, if that client is bold and they want a red kitchen, we've actually done a red kitchen.
You have to do what your client wants.
Green, but
I couldn't even imagine what it looked like. I mean, what it would, the vision in this person's head when you looked at they were green, Christmas green, and the cabinets were fire engine red. And I can't even remember. I just walked out of the room and my sister said, "Where you going?" I said, "I can't stay here. I can't look at this."
right.
It doesn't even make sense to me, but whatever.
But that's the difference between designing for an end user or designing to help sell a property.
We all have to do what our clients ask us to do and pay us to do, but with our good sense and good taste, we have to kind of direct them or steer them sometimes in different directions. All right, we've got to take a break. No one's going anywhere. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. We will be right back. Don't go away.
The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
All right, everybody, we are back. So,
All right, Vince, I got to pause you for 1 second if
Okay.
you're all right with it.
I am.
I'm going to hijack your show just to provide some really fun news. Segment 1, we saw something behind you that said Talking New York, and then it phased into something else. And that is the announcement of a multi-year sponsorship of your show from a premier moving and storage company, Roadway. And it's exciting to announce that on this show, because what I think is important about this is that you understand the outside world. Yes, you have 5,600 subscribers and that value this. But there are brands and companies that value you and your audience.
Oh, that's nice to
and
hear.
your content and the time and effort that you put into this show 48 times a year. And I want to pause and say, you've been doing this for a good amount of years, and I know you've already shown great success, but to have a sponsorship, our first sponsorship on the network, we have several more to come, but the first one, our most valued, I want to just say congratulations on that.
Well said. Thank you.
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks to him. But thanks to Roadway, because they are a great company. And it's nice to know that people are paying attention and listening and watching and whatever. Anyway, let's get back to what we were talking about before the break. So, bold colors, flashy furniture from a staging perspective, okay? Let's say the room is empty or the apartment is empty, and an agent comes to you and says, "Hey, listen, so I want to do this and I want to do that." How do you handle the furniture selection? I think Matt said earlier, you kind of keep it simple, sleek, not overcrowded. But you find sometimes, you bump into people who say, no, I want a little more, or I really want a bigger sofa. We were talking about it before the show. These sectional sofas sometimes in 2x4 living rooms. What are you thinking about?
Yeah.
You got to jump over things to get to the other side of the room, right?
Yep.
So how do you stage smartly?
Sure. So I think the first thing we do is kind of look at the apartment and the neighborhood. Is it an industrial loft? Is it very modern? And so we're going to start from kind of there and pull furniture that we think makes sense. Obviously, we're going to give our recommendations on what's the right size, what's the right look. Sometimes we do get pushback and someone puts their foot down and says, "No, I really want this." And we'll work with them and we'll try and guide them in the right direction, but we might end up with something that we don't necessarily agree with. But it's their home in the end, and oftentimes we'll,
But what is the
work with
right
that.
look? I mean, because you're in the business, Melanie's in the business, you
Sure.
do this all the time, you do it every day. We all are experts in what we do. What is the right look?
I think we're trying to create that emotional connection with a buyer who's coming in or a renter, right? And so we want someone to walk in and say, "Wow, this is amazing. I want to live here." And you can't go too bold, like you were saying before, because it could kind of push people away. And you don't want it to be boring either. So it's something in the middle where it looks really sleek, modern, clean, but does kind of create that emotional reaction of, this is something I can see myself living in.
Matt, you said earlier, I think if I get the percentage right, a 3% uptick on the value of something when it's staged or designed and put out there on the market do we have any statistics or numbers that say, hey, because this was staged, because this was designed, properly, whatever, it's sold in 2 weeks or it's sold in 1 month, whatever. Is there a number or a
Yeah, I
statistic
mean,
there?
the stat of 70% faster staging versus non-stage. Now, I that stat is also empty versus having furniture in it as well. So I think it's very important to consider not presenting a home empty. I think it's important to show, okay, this could be both a dining room and a living room. This could, be a guest room. This is big enough for a bed. Like these types of vision are important when someone's walking in because they're looking at dozens of homes. There's something that likely has what they're looking for right in front of their face without them having to visualize it. I understood, I was talking to a stager a couple months ago, and they told me that they're like 10% of buyers have vision. And
I would say maybe less.
Yeah, like and they were saying how literally no one walks in the door and could see something for what it is. Oh. So anything that you could do to provide them with vision is important. Like, to get them in the door, sometimes virtual staging could help you do that. We're now delving into augmented reality and virtual reality for giving them that virtual vision of what the home could look like. But when all said and done, the people that talk about virtual stage and the people that talk about VR, AR, everyone says the same thing, is that you still got to kick the tires. And if you don't see it in front of your face, no one believes it. So you still got to get over that hump, and that's an incredible hump to get over. And that's why I see traditional staging as honestly an essential expense. And if you have brokerages that could actually have programs that pay for the cost up front for staging, and then the client pays for it at the
closing table,
like Brown Harris Stevens does, we do that a lot with our clients, and it's a no-brainer. Just cover it at the close.
But don't you think, I agree with that also, but don't you think, though, that sometimes, even if we're going to give them the money up front, get it all done, and then they get it, pay us back at the closing table, it seems like a win-win, a no-brainer, right? But aren't there people who sit back and say, but what's wrong with my house? My house is perfect. I don't need to do anything, declutter. Again, with this gentleman with the air conditioning situation, I walk in and there are sneakers on the floor. Sometimes he doesn't flush the toilet. And I say to him all the time, I get that you're a young guy, okay? Clean up your act, okay? Because I got to sell this. Are you kidding me? Yeah. So everybody thinks, he says, was it messy when not?
Well,
you're asking me if it was messy. You live here,
Vince. The business answer of that is that if you walked into a doctor's office and told the doctor, "Well, I think I don't need surgery," that's not your job. Like, you're hiring me to give you an insights and experience and professionalism and knowledge to get you the highest price. Mm-hmm. So, you're no longer living in that home. It's no longer what your tastes are. It's the tastes of the largest buyer pool possible to get as many offers in there to raise the price of that home, and you will close at the best price. That's the goal here. It's not like a designer showcasing your style. It's not about that. We're not rating you. We're only buying the home. So get over that, get out of the way, and let the professionals do business.
But in the meantime, I was telling Melanie before the show, seller said to me once, but we still live here. And if you want to remove the sofa and the chair, and how are we going to live? You'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think that, that it's very hard for a seller. They have that, personal connection.
Oh, of course.
And, it's hard for them, but to speak to what you were saying, you're hiring a professional. You have to listen to their opinion and sort of.
And it's a temporary solution. When you go to your next place, your next buy, your next whatever, your next rental, you can, clutter it up as much as you want to. No one's going to tell you after the fact what you can and can't do. But right now, you're asking us to sell this place. You got to do it our way. We talked earlier before the show also about smaller spaces. If they're designed properly or staged properly, they show bigger. Explain that, Melanie, because a lot of people don't get a small space and they can't visualize it being any bigger.
Right.
What do you do to make that feel more spacious?
So contrary to what people would actually believe, the more furniture in a room, the larger it does feel. Not to be cluttered where you have to walk sideways, but definitely you want to make it look comfortable and envision entertaining in that space. But I do think that oversized furniture is a problem. But having someone see in a very small bedroom, let's say, that a bed and one night table fit is very important, because we all know in the city, bedrooms could be quite tiny, or living spaces that you're not sure if a dining table could fit, showing them in staging that you can fit a table for 4. Maybe you're not fitting that table for 12, but for 4, you can.
But it cracks me up sometimes, the requirements when you're working with buyers, right? And they have to have this, and they have to have this, and they have to have that. But yet their budget is whatever their budget is, or the room count is whatever the room count is. And I say, where would you like to put a dining table for 12?
Yeah.
Can't even put it on the patio because you don't have one. Where are you going to do that? But in their mind, maybe that's where they're coming from, or what, look, I come from a house, grew up in Westchester in a house, right? I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. I can't have what I had in a house.
Yep.
But people don't see that. And back to Matt's point before, and we talked about this earlier, if I'm showing it an empty apartment for whatever reason, they don't want to stage, they don't want to do whatever, the first thing, in new development especially, the first thing people do when they walk in is like they're looking around, and I can rattle off the questions one after the other because I've heard them 100,000 times before, and they're looking around and like, well, so Vince, where would you suggest you put a television? And I usually say, you got 4 walls, pick one, okay? And so he picks one or she picks one, and I was like, okay, over there. Then they say, well, so then where would you put the sofa? You got 3 other walls, pick one, or float it. I mean, do people, I guess my question is, do people need that much hand-holding to help them pick a wall to put a TV on? Or now the TV's
Yes.
on the wall and the sofa doesn't know, no clue where to put the sofa.
Vince, you just jumped on something that's very important, is that you have to, in the job of a representative agent, is to limit the number of questions that person will have when they walk through that space.
Absolutely.
So if you say, can that fit? Can it be this? There's questions that usually turn into obstacles for purchase. So what you should do is show them that it is possible because you staged it as such. And you're seeing it the second they walk in the door. One less question. Like, let's limit the questions by showing them what it could be, what it is. You see it, so it shall be. That's what's so important about that, is that investment of whatever staging costs there are is an investment in time. That person will be in that home less. They will question it less. They will be ready, willing, and able to provide an offer on that home because they believe that they could live there. And it's a belief. That's what it is. Okay, I believe now I can go and put in an offer.
100% belief.
I think also not only does it help eliminate questions, but it provides opportunities in that they might not have realized you can fit something there.
Yeah.
And in some apartments in New York City now, it's not so obvious. It's small spaces, new construction. It's a column instead of a wall. Where do I put my TV? I don't quite see how it could work. So it eliminates
all
questions.
windows.
Yeah, it's all windows, and so it's not always obvious. And so it helps eliminate questions. But then it's also like, oh wow, I can put a dining table and a living room in this space.
It's creative. It's creative thinking, right? But that's where the experts come in to say, hey, okay, I get it. You're not necessarily going to understand. I get confused sometimes, and I think I have a little more taste than some of the others. But when you walk in this room full of windows, you're like, okay, now what do I do, right? I mean, they're beautiful, especially if it's a view. But people get really, verklempt when they're thinking, well, what about the TV? And I can't hang it on the window. Well, you get a credenza and you put it on top of that, or whatever it is, right? Let's talk about the differences between apartment values and the type of staging or design that might need to go into a $2 million apartment versus a $700,000 studio or a $10 million apartment. How do you scale up that quality of furniture? Or anything that you're going to put in there.
Yeah, so we have kind of different levels of staging, and we kind of break it down internally as sort of a light, standard, and premium. And so for a smaller studio where it doesn't make sense to do super high-end staging.
Right.
They're not going to see that return on their
return.
investment.
No.
It doesn't make any sense. So they'll still come to us and say, hey, I still need to stage this. And so we have a product that fits that budget and that type of apartment. And then it goes all the way up. So where we can do a $7 million townhome, we'll do a higher end stage there because that buyer is going to demand it, and the property requires it.
And the same on the buy side. Okay, somebody comes in, they're buying a townhouse or they're buying a $10 million apartment, and $10 million today is almost pocket change in this town. You come on board, and they want the best of the best of the best. How, where does the vision for that come from? You sit there and interview the client as to what they've already had, what they don't like, what they do like, and then put a plan together to get it done.
Yes. So what I always
Because
tell
that
a
to me
client-
seems like a lot of work.
What I always tell a client, not only to tell me what you like, but what don't you like, because sometimes that's more telling. Like, what do you hate? Styles. So we like to have them send us either Instagram posts or back in the day, magazine, tear outs, and kind of see their vibe, their needs. Do they have a large family? Do they have a pet? All of that plays a role. Do they entertain a lot? So, and then we kind of together, which I think working together with the client always is the best recipe, come up with a vibe and the direction, and we design from that. But everyone has a budget. Mm-hmm. Everybody. So we take that into account, and we know where to steer the job.
Yeah, and Matt mentioned the budget before, and I wanted to ask though, so how often, just like cost overruns, anything that we do, building houses, whatever, you reach that budget and you know that there still needs to have another this or another that. How difficult is it to convince people, got to spend a little more money, maybe?
So
I mean, any renovations that I've done in my past, you get a price and you just keep thinking to yourself, okay, wishful thinking, it's going to go over that probably, and it always did.
right.
I mean, and that's always a tough conversation to have, right?
Yes, it is. I find that when a project gets done in a shorter time frame, like a client wants to be in by a certain date, it's a summer home and they really want to be in, and we're working at that fast pace, meeting every week, I find that the budget can increase with less of a blow to the client because they see this progress and they want to be in. When the project starts to linger on the 3, 4, 5, 6 year mark,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I think they start to zip up the pocketbooks a little bit more, and it's tough. It's definitely tough, but those are conversations that hopefully you have midway through and say, look, we still have a lot to go.
Look, just like we say in the real estate side of this business, it's all emotional. Okay, there isn't a buyer out there, a seller out there, a renter out there that doesn't approach a transaction without emotion. And oftentimes, great emotion, okay? I don't look like this on purpose because people can drive you insane with all kinds of drama, right? I can only imagine on the staging side and on the design side, you get to see all of that emotion, right? Every decision is an emotional decision. And if people are like some of the people I know, immediate family, who can't decide how to get out of a box, not even a week's worth of thinking how to get out of that box, I often think, well, how are you going to do this? How are you going to buy something? How are you then going to agree to stage it or design it when they can't? They just can't. But yet they're stubborn enough to think, well, but I know everything. Or, when I make my decision, you'll all know about it. What about that an emotional connection? Again, in our business, I think every avenue, we've got to step over an emotion. Here and on my side of the fence, attorneys, buyers, sellers, mortgage brokers, you name it. Everybody's got a different something about everything. How do you work through that? When you know maybe that you're right, but yet...
Unfortunately, sometimes you have to let them win, unfortunately.
No, they're paying the bill, right?
Correct. At the end of the day, it's their home, it's their money. You could try your hardest, give your expertise, give your opinion, explain why it needs to be a certain way or why. I'm having a situation right now regarding a carpet for a room, and we feel that should be this one carpet, and the client won't budge. They want this other carpet, and we do not feel it is the right, the right fit. But at the end of the day, the guy's going to buy what he's going to buy.
And even when we say most people don't have vision and they should be relying on the experts to, bring it all together for them, we still always have a problem. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk about virtual staging and photography and why all of this is so important. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. We will be right back.
This podcast is supported by the More Network, powered by Brown Harris Stevens. Real estate touches every aspect of our lives, from design and architecture to investing and the economy. Now there's a way to get all your real estate information in one place. The More Network. With more than 20 podcast and webcast series, the Mastery of Real Estate Network is powered by Brown Harris Stevens, one of the country's most distinguished brokerages. Discover advice from notable entrepreneurs, compelling topics, and access to top global real estate experts. Subscribe to their YouTube and Apple podcast channels by visiting getmorenetwork.com.
Okay, everybody, we're back. So, before the break, I mentioned photography and virtual tours. Matt, explain to our listeners and our viewers the importance of virtual tours, which is not as old as photography or video. It's, 10 years or whatever, but very important in the whole process. And with help from these guys, the product that we put out there is slick and awesome sometimes. Explain to us what that is. Or why it's important.
I think what's important is there's a couple things, and you're talking about like the sort of that Matterport 3 walkthrough. Yep. What it allows the buyer to do is do a virtual like open house walkthrough of the home in the comfort of their own home, seeing every inch of the home. They also have these new features inside the tours that will allow you to have a measuring tool. So we were talking before about, can this fit in there? You can go and look at the measurements of the walls and the height of the ceilings and see if what you have could work there. So again, limiting questions. There's technology as much as expertise of stagers. There's technology that would help limit the questions for when they walk through the door. I think there's great advantage to that. I think listing aggregators also see the great advantage of these products because they're taking listings that have those associated with it and moving it to the top of search results because they want to keep the end user on their site longer. So it's a double win, in my opinion, for agents to consider that, is that it allows someone to have limited questions when they walk through the door. It will also allow your home to get more views, which I think is very important as well. So I think that, transparency is a lost art in our world of real estate, and it should be taken more seriously, especially in a market that we're in right now where there's a lot of discerning buyers out there, as discerning as ever. And we want to make sure that we can get them over the various humps that they have in their buying experience. And I think technology allows you to do that.
Correct. During the COVID pandemic, when we were not allowed to go and show anything, I sold one apartment and I rented 2 apartments, all 3 of them pretty high end, from virtual tours and video and photography. So, the naysayers will say, oh, well, it's too expensive, but it's worth it in times like that. But how does photography help you guys in your business? I mean, when I post on social media, I always will acknowledge my photographer, a stager if I'm using a stager, or an interior designer, because in my opinion, it's not just about me or my listing. It's about the people behind the scenes who make all of this happen. Yeah. How do you have any, proof of that working for you? Where people mention you in posts, or where photography really shows your furniture in the best light possible?
Sure. I think, we definitely have partners who mention us in posts and we work with closely. But I think, if the goal is you're trying to rent an apartment or sell an apartment, and the 2 biggest drivers there are either price and then marketing and branding. And how are you going to draw attention to that product? And staging, photography, virtual tours, all of these tools are things that agents are using and driving attention to the property. And so photography is a huge piece of that for us because it lets everyone see what we've done, see what the apartment looks like, obviously, and is another way to drive people to the listing.
I mean, listen, today is National Cheesecake Day. So I posted this morning, National Cheesecake Day, and I tagged a restaurant on the Upper West Side that I go to all the time that has the best cheesecake in the world. And so when I go back to my social media after the show, I'm hoping I get an invitation from them to come and have free cheesecake again. Because every time I do that, they invite me.
Yep.
I pay for my dinner, but give me my free cheesecake. Perfectly
But
fine.
not only
And I don't
that-
even eat cheesecake. I mean, I like it, but I don't eat it because I can't, you know.
Not only that, I find when you photograph a space in my business, and you start tagging everyone involved in that photograph, all of the furniture manufacturers, the contractor, the realtor, whatever the case may be, I find that all of a sudden I'll get a slew of requests for following from it, and it'll just grow and grow and grow. And the more that you can get your business out there,
Well, I think on the side of the agent, it's increasing the perceptual value to have all of these entities behind it, all of these professionals that are showing this home the way it looks at that moment. Like you have a stager that helped in the staging. You have maybe a florist that helped in the floral arrangements. You have a photographer that helped in the visual aesthetic of it. Every one of those things is just, it's like I even say when an agent walks in the door to show a home, how they look is impacting the perceptual value of it as much as how the home looks. So everything matters in perceptual value. And on top of that, you were bringing up something important is that if you're going to share something on social media, something that's very important is that you reach as large of an audience as possible. And if you're tagging and if you're mentioning, you're going to be showing up inside of their ecosystem and the people that follow them as much as those who follow you. So there's nothing wrong with that because it's a perceptual value gain and it's also an increase in the audience that will end up seeing it and engaging with it and sharing it.
And when you're an agent and you're searching for property and you look at our systems and you say, oh, this is unstaged, that one is staged. No, which one do I want to show my client? Of course, there are a lot of things that go into that criteria, but a staged place is always going to help, in my opinion, help the sale. So the return on that investment for a seller or a landlord or an owner who's trying to rent an apartment is going to be greater because people walk in, as we keep saying, without vision. And when they see, oh, okay, that works. Oh, okay, that works. And as you and I talked about before the show, you don't have to like the style. It's really more about the furniture placement. It's really more about what fits in the space. And about scale. Talk to me a little bit, Melanie, about scale of stuff. I mean, sometimes you walk in and, as I said earlier, the sofa is bigger than half the room, or, the TV stand is bigger than the TV itself. Cluttered.
yeah,
How important is scale?
scale's huge in the design perspective. When I set out to do a furniture plan, it's very important, to leave X amount of inches between the sofa and the coffee table, X amount of inches to walk around, all the other furniture. A lot of people don't realize that, but it's so important, and a few inches does make a huge difference.
Oh, it absolutely does. Let's talk a little bit about, not that we want to put anybody on the spot, but let's talk a little bit about, who's more difficult to work with, the actual real estate agent or the owner of a building or the seller of an apartment, from both of your perspectives, okay? Listen, I'm a real estate agent, and I know how difficult real estate agents can be. Who gives you the most headache?
We love all of our clients.
Of course you do.
For us, I really think it's more about the person and the industry of where they're coming from. You can find difficult people in any industry.
Correct.
And so I don't really see a pattern of, agents are more difficult than owners or anything like that. I think it just comes down to the person. I think honestly, we have been very lucky in that we have a great client base of people that we really enjoy working with. But if you have a person who really has a strong opinion on what something should look like, it can be a challenge, and no matter where they're coming from.
What is a typical lease for your furniture? Is it 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year? What is it?
Yeah, we start at 3 months. And then, if we're doing a ground up development with 5 model units and they're leasing up an entire building, it's going to be a year long probably, if not more. And so it really just depends on the product that we're working with.
Talk a little bit about, the furnished rentals that are out there and how you compete with them. Because I was working with a client a couple of weeks ago who wanted and decided to put it on pause for a while. But he's like, well, we're young, recent college grads. We don't have furniture, but we need a 3-bedroom apartment, for 3 of us. And we wouldn't mind a furnished place if you can find that. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I don't really do that, but okay. Or there are places where you can rent furniture on a monthly basis or an annual basis, like your firm.
Yep.
Do you encounter a lot of competition from furnished rentals, or does that not play?
So we actually do both. We work with property owners who might say, hey, listen, I have 30 studios. I want them all fully furnished, pots, pans, bedding, towels, ready to go, move in with your toothbrush. So we'll work with developers or property owners to do that. So we do have our foot in that space also. But, on the furniture rental side, I think what one of the benefits is that they can pick what they want. They want a gray sofa, blue sofa,
Right.
king bed, queen bed. They get to pick it versus a lot of these furnished rentals, you're just getting whatever's in there. So this provides a little bit more of a flexibility on style. But we do offer fully furnished also, and then obviously station.
How flexible, are you with a client saying, I want to change out the sofa and get another one. I want to change out this and get another one. Do you do that in the middle of a lease, or does it kind of complicate things?
Yeah, so we just have a swap fee.
Okay.
So in the first 3 days, if they want to change something out, no problem. Just let us know. We'll switch it out.
I mean, because, funny side note, for about 10 years, a while ago now, I haven't done it in a while, but for about 10 years, I had a winter sofa and a summer sofa. And one or the other was in the storage room until I needed it again. So, twice a year, the moving company would come, bring the winter sofa in, take the other one out, and vice versa. And people would say to me, you are crazy. There's definitely something wrong with you, right? Yeah. So I can only imagine that there are a lot of crazies like me out there that want to do that kind of stuff. Do you see that on your end of the spectrum?
No, that's actually the first time I heard that. Believe it or not.
They were 2 wonderful sofas. I just couldn't decide which one I liked better. And the room could not accommodate more than one.
Oh,
so I changed it out.
That's very interesting to me.
Yeah. Change it out.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
I mean, that'd be great for me because the client would buy 2 sofas. And then,
correct. Look, you put it in a nice storeroom, wrap it all up. One was leather, one was fabric. It was fabric for the wintertime and leather for the summertime. It was absolutely perfect. And everybody noticed every time I changed. Did you
must
get new
be summer.
furniture? It must be. Whatever.
The changing of the leaves and the changing of
The changing of
the Vince
everything.
couch.
Absolutely. And color coordinated for the season. In your spec homes that you build out west, do you also stage those before you put them on the market to sell, or do you not?
Yeah, actually, that's a little bit of where the Everset started was building homes in Utah. We would sell them fully furnished. And so primarily second homes.
Oh, sell them fully furnished?
Yeah.
Okay.
So primarily it's second homes. People want to move in and enjoy it right away. So we would furnish the home. And then I came from real estate and kind of seeing that out there and then looking at the New York market, furniture rental made a lot of sense here.
Melanie, tell us a little bit about why people need to consider interior design when they buy something, after they buy something. Obviously, the return on investment for them when they go and sell it is, it adds value to, as Matt said before, you walk into a place that's pleasing to look at. Tell us how important that is in your business, on your side of the fence in interior design, versus just saying, hey, live how you live and it is what it is.
Well, there are people out there that want a very beautiful space. They want to live in a very beautiful home with unique touches, and they can't do that on their own. They don't maybe have the vision or the wherewithal or to know where to start. So we're the guiding force that comes in and have the vision. Perhaps we're putting a floating wall in. Perhaps we're, like you were saying about floor-to-ceiling windows. Maybe we need a hydraulic TV unit in this room. Things like that. Just giving them an extra special touch. I don't think everyone has the knack. Certainly people do. But if you want something really special and different,
Talk about a little bit about ceiling height. I do a lot of new development stuff, and when buyers come in and they're looking around and they're checking out rooms and stuff, aside from the room dimension, which a lot of new developments are not very large rooms, but big enough. But a lot of people are more concerned about ceiling height. Why is that? And do you encounter that in your business?
Well,
Or is it just it is what it is?
I actually went to go touring apartments with one of my clients in a new development building, and we were looking at a few different units, and one of them had very low ceilings, and the other unit had these grand, beautiful ceilings, and it's like, come on, let's do. And we met somewhere in the middle. He didn't go with the low ceilings or the high, but it just, especially in a smaller apartment, higher ceilings give the feeling that it's a larger space.
I get that question whether I'm selling new development or whether I'm selling a resale. Everybody comes in, aside from what's the square footage, which is the $1 million question that everybody asks, without even saying hello. What's the square footage? Like, why do you care? Okay? Just, it's a visual thing. Look around. You never win that argument. The second question is, how tall are the ceilings? I mean, I've heard stories where artwork is important, and some artwork is 8 feet, 9 feet tall, so you want at least an 11 or 12-foot ceiling. I get that. But, and so you look at places accordingly. But, those two things really, from a design perspective, and, especially when they start asking about square footage, I'm like, okay, can't you just make this a visual thing? Like they go to the window and look outside. What's happening out there? Nothing. It's a sidewalk or a street.
Well, square footage, I feel like, really depends on how the apartment's laid out.
That's why I call it a visual thing.
Yeah.
It's the way the apartment is laid out. If it works for you, if the flow works for you, the amount of whatever it is, closets, okay. But if you tell them it's 1,300 feet and they're like, I need 1,350 square feet, and out the door they run. Where are you going to get the other 50 square feet?
You
In the bathroom?
You can have a great 1,500 square feet that's laid out really well, and it feels terrific, or
exactly.
it can be tough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, we're coming right back after this commercial break with my thoughts for the week. This is the Moore Network and Talking New York Real Estate. Don't go anywhere. All right, everybody, we are back with my closing thoughts for the week. In the highly competitive New York City real estate market, staging and design is of paramount importance. It creates a powerful first impression, helping potential buyers or renters visualize themselves in a space and highlighting the property's best features while minimizing any drawbacks. Given the typically smaller living spaces in New York City, staging maximizes the perceived size and functionality of rooms. This strategic presentation not only speeds up sales or rentals, but also often results in higher prices, making the investment in staging highly cost-effective. By neutralizing the space, staging and design appeals to a broader audience, enhancing the quality of listing photos and virtual tours, and setting the property apart from others. Ultimately, staging helps forge an emotional connection between the buyer and the property, facilitating a faster and more profitable sale or rental. And that's our broadcast for today. Thanks so much to my guests for being here on set with me. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, or TikTok at Vince Rocco, or my website, thinkvince.com. Einstein once said compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the Moore Network, to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.